Whoa, check out that car. Look at that. Whoa, look at it go fast. Oh my gosh. That was a fast car. Oh my gosh. Awesome.
Come explore with Xsploor and you'll learn so much more. Find new facts, see new things, grow like never before. Search around, sky or ground, you never know what's in store. Explore, explore, explore. Explore, explore, explore.
Hey fellow explorers. Guess where I'm at today? The Laguna Seca Raceway in Monterey, California. And I'm at the Allen Berg School of Racing. And guess what they race? Formula racing cars. They're awesome, aren't they? Check them out. Get behind the wheel and zoom. It's gonna be great. So guess what? We're gonna learn all about these cars and about how to race them and what the different parts are and the aerodynamics of it all. And it's gonna be a great, exciting day today. So check it out, hang on with me, and we'll talk to you later, all right? See you then. So this, as you can see, is an actual Formula racing car. It's got a solid carbon body on it. It's got wheels, it's got a struts on to hold it in. And inside the car here, you can see, these are safety belts, safety harnesses. Now, cars, it's not like you're like in your car, where you get in the car, you just put a seat belt on. These actually are what's called a 4-point belt. So you can see inside of here, they connect. See, one connection here, one connection here. This connects as well. So then you can see you got 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a 4-point harness, and that keeps you nice and secure. That way, because if you're going fast, the last thing you want to do is fly out of the car. So it keeps you nice and secure and tight inside there. And then, if you notice, when they get inside the car, it's a very tight fit. So it has to be a tight fit because it's obviously aerodynamic. So sometimes, because it's such a tight fit, they can't fit right inside the car. So this steering wheel actually will pop right off. You take it right off, and you get in, and they put the steering wheel right back on again. So you can't do that in your car at home, obviously. That's attached permanently. But these ones, they pop right on and pop right off. It's pretty cool. And then here's something different too. Now at home, if you're driving a car, your mom or dad has a car, the engine is in the front. These engines, see how narrow this is? And it slopes down. There's no room for an engine in there. Plus, if you're sitting here and you crashed your car head on with an engine right here, with all that oil and gas, poof, it could blow up in your face, and that could be very dangerous. It could kill you. So what they do is they have more space in the back of the car, and it's safer. They put the engine in the back. Look at this engine. It's a powerful engine. It goes really, really fast. You can see that these are the pistons. They have all their fluids right here, and it just goes really fast, and you see it kicks it all out right in the back here. And so if something happens, if they crash head on, this is not going to blow up because this won't get hurt. And if it does, someone hits them from the back and blows it up, then guess what? The fire is behind them. It's not in their face, so they're still safe. That's very important. And then look at this right here. This is called a spoiler. So a spoiler on a racing car actually helps the airflow. So what happens is when they're racing, the air, as you can see, it's aerodynamic. The air comes in, it goes up here, and it comes back down. Now that can be a little bit destabilizing. So what this does actually is lets the air go and flow off like that. And that keeps it down. If it goes right down, it can actually lift the car off the ground. So with a spoiler, it stays aerodynamic, but the air goes up, which actually forces the car down and keeps the car on the ground so it doesn't go flying off. And that's important too. When you're racing really fast, it's easy to sort of take off. And if you take off, your car's going to flip over because it's not an airplane. It's not going to fly. It's going to lift up in the air and you're going to crash. So this actually spoiler helps to control the car and keep it grounded. Plus, if you notice, it's wider here in the middle. Again, being narrow on the end but wider in the middle helps it to stay grounded. It helps it to have a sensor force of gravity, so it stays low. So that's really important. These are great cars. Formula cars are great cars. And as you can see, right over here, this is the part that goes right over the back where the engine's at. See this side? And you can see inside of here, it's very light. So the cars are made, it's not made out of metal, it's actually made out of a composite carbon material. And that lightness helps it to go faster. All the cars want to be as light as possible to go as fast as possible. The lighter the car, the faster the car. And it goes right on there. And right over here, you can see they've been working on this car. You can see all the cool tools that are used. Look at how many bolts there are. Look at this. There's so many of them here. Because in a car, there's so many different shapes of bolts that are needed that you have to have the whole set for every different size. They have sizes in inches, sizes in centimeters, sizes in different forms of metric. And it's really important that you have all the right tools when you're working on a car like this because there's so many different parts to it. It's really, really amazing. And as you can see, racing cars, one thing that's universal no matter what racing car you see is they have writing on them. Now most cars you see racing in a race, they actually have what's called, they have advertised, they have sponsors, so they actually have different ones. This is the Allen Berg Racing School because these cars are from the Allen Berg Racing School, so he has his name on it. But if it was racing in say, Indy Grand Prix or something, it actually has a bunch of sponsors on it. So sponsors pay to have their name advertised in a race. So it's really cool. And as you see, they have the mirrors right here. They have one on both sides. So as you're racing, normally you're looking straight ahead. But it's also important to know who's up beside you or who's coming up behind you because if you're racing fast and someone's coming up behind you, you gotta be able to either get out of the way or maybe sometimes block them off. That's important too. So racing is not just a game of knowing how to drive, it's how to have the strategy of how you drive. There's a lot involved in racing, and we'll talk about more of that later on. Now this is a pretty fast car. This is a Mustang, it's a pretty fast car, but not nearly as fast as a Formula One racing car. But it does go fast enough to serve as what's called a pace car. Now, when you're racing, all the races start off with, if you watch a race, they have a pace car that leads them from the start line. The reason for that is you have a bunch of cars all backed up. Without a pace car sort of making sure that all the cars stay behind it at a certain pace, a certain speed, the front car could take right off and go, the back car would be stuck. And he wouldn't have a chance to get up to speed to match the front car. So to give everybody a fair chance, the pace car goes and all the cars have to stay behind it. And they can't pass the pace car, they have to stay right in a row in their starting position. They can't change position, they stay right there with the pace car. And the pace car gets up to a pretty good speed, like about 110, 120 miles an hour. And then after a lap or two, it pulls off the road, and now all the Formula One racing cars, or if it's NASCAR, all the NASCAR, whatever the racing cars are, they're at a decent speed where they can take off now and go. And they're fast enough where they're at that level they can take off, and no one is being left behind. No one has an unfair advantage at that point. And that way all the cars can take off and it's fair. So that's what a pace car does. The pace car literally sets the pace for the racing cars that have to follow behind it until the pace car gets off the road. Once it gets off the road, then the cars can go as fast as they want. But they can't pass the car. So if this car is going 80 miles an hour, they can go fast. They can't go faster than 80. If it's going 100, they can't go faster than 100. The pace car sets the pace, the speed for the cars. And in this case, because this is also a racing school, not just a racetrack, this car actually falls behind the students who are in their racing cars to make sure that nothing happens to them. If they get an accident, this car will be right there on the scene to help that student out. This is Matt. He is like one of the instructors here at the Allen Berg Racing School, and I'm going to ask him just a few questions today. So, for someone watching, if they want to actually race a car themselves, what's really involved in that? Is it difficult, or how do you do that?
Yeah, so it's important to start slow, and you know, our cars might not be the most powerful thing, but that's why they're good school cars, because when you're driving slow, it allows you to develop all the good techniques that we're trying to look for, and it allows us to coach you, whereas if we throw them into a 1,000 horsepower monster right off the bat, you won't be able to learn good techniques because you're hanging on for dear life.
Sure.
Start slow, that's the big thing, and it's all about doing smooth inputs and working your way up gradually as opposed to going past the limit of what the car or the tire is capable of and then having to dial things down.
Sure. And these cars now, are they basically the same, like all built the same as a full-size one, just kind of just scale down?
These are full-size Formula cars.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, believe it or not, they are full-size, but you can think of them as like an entry-level car. So we have Formula One nowadays, which is the very top of it. You might think of it as like a Formula 4 or a Formula 3 car nowadays. So it's definitely an intro car, which tends to be a bit smaller to cater to younger drivers.
So that's the horsepower kind of just slower down.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. And what kind of, is just regular gasoline, or what kind of fuel does it
Yeah, believe it or not, these are just regular little Renault 1600 engines that take regular gasoline, so we don't have to do anything crazy, but typically as you work your way up the ladder, everything gets more expensive, tires, cars, fuel, everything starts to ramp up, so we keep it pretty basic.
Now, if someone was actually racing a car, how many tires or something does it go through in a race, typically, do you know?
It depends. So for a school like this, we try to make them last a really long time just to try and keep the costs down for students to come out.
Sure.
But in the real world and in real racing environments, you will typically go through a set of tires every weekend or two.
Oh, wow.
At minimum. So most people get about 2 new sets of tires a weekend.
That's amazing.
I try to do things a little differently because that's expensive, so I try and make a set last 3 or 4 weekends, but that's pretty rare.
Okay, that's amazing. And then the gasoline, how much gasoline does this normally take to, I mean, they're small tanks, not very big tanks, right?
Yeah, so typically in a car like this, you'll get about 7 or 8 miles to the gallon, which isn't obviously ideal, but in terms of racing, that's actually pretty good. It's only a 1600 engine, so it's relatively small. So we'll typically burn a gallon every 2 or 3 laps.
Okay,
like that.
That can last for quite a while.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very cool. And then the cars themselves, I noticed like when some folks got in there, they had to take the steering wheel off and pop it back in. Now, is that just because it has to be a really tight fit just to get in there, just for aerodynamics?
Yeah, so someone really small and little can maybe slide in there, but anyone you know, above, let's say 5'5", you're gonna have to really do some sort of acrobatics to get in there. So the steering wheel just makes your life a lot easier.
And if now this is, say you're racing a car and it crashed, and what would prevent somebody from like just getting really hurt or getting burned or something? Well, how would you prevent
Yes,
that?
the main thing in race cars is they've got really advanced harnesses. So instead of a street car that has a harness that just goes across your chest and across your lap, these ones have 2 across your shoulders, 2 across your lap, and 2 underneath you as well.
Oh, wow.
So they go kind of between your legs. So whatever you want to call those, submarine belts or crotch belts, whatever you want to call them, but that's the main thing. And nowadays we also have a bunch of other safety equipment that we use, like head and neck restraints, things like that we can utilize as well.
And I noticed like all the drivers sort of have the same kind of like one piece, like a kind of pullover outfit and the helmets on. Now, does that help at all too? Or?
So the big baggy looking suits, they are mostly for fire protection. So we've never seen something like that, but you always want to be prepared for the worst case scenario. So we have a full fire retardant suit, gloves, face mask called a balaclava, and the helmet as well that just protects you from those elements if it were to ever happen.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I see just watching you guys, these guys are racing so fast. Now I saw these guys racing. How many days of training does it take just to be able to go around the track?
I mean, you guys come out for a first day and you'll be buzzing around, but we'll try and keep things nice and sensible again to let things work up nice and smoothly. But towards the end of the second and third day, that's when people start to get a bit more comfortable. We can maybe coach them a bit more effectively because they're comfortable enough to actually learn.
Sure.
So typically 2 or 3 days is good enough as like an intro, and that's what we typically do.
Okay. And how often? I saw like one over here being like worked on. How often the cars like break down and you have to work on them?
Yeah, I mean, typically every day we'll see a car or 2 have an issue, and it's kind of normal for any race that you go to. It's typically about 1 or 2 cars that'll conk out, and it's just part of the industry.
Sure.
Because we're working the cars really hard.
Yeah,
they're going to be a bit more stressed out as well.
Of course. All right. Well, thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Xsploor.
See you
Have a
later.
good one.
All right. Now check this out. This right here is a jack. Now, unlike, for example, the jack you may have at home on your parents' car, which they're kind of small and they kind of lift the car up a little bit. You can change one tire. These have big handles, and they're designed to go underneath the car and pump the car up very, very quickly. And the reason for that is they have to change the tire very quickly, or whatever else they need to change on the car. So when cars come in and they're racing, they go into an area called the pit area. And the people working in the pit area are called the pit crew. And their job is to change everything on the car as fast as possible. The driver's driving fast, but every time he stops, he can't drive. And all the cars are passing him up. So the pit crew has to be just as fast as him to get him back on the road again. So you have these things like this where a jack, they pump him up quickly, get underneath the car, lift it up, and make whatever changes they have to make. For example, they put a new tire on because these tires they wear out very quickly on the road. The rubber literally burns right off them in a race. They put a new tire on and they got to pump it up. They have pneumatic pumps, so they're not sitting there pumping it up. They put these on and psh, in a matter of a couple of seconds, that tire is full. And then they'll grab a gas tank and they'll literally just pour the gas, just dump it right into the car. Right in here, they'll open it up, pour the gas in, tighten it up, and now with the tires on, the gas in, they're all set to go, and the driver can take right off, and he's back in the race. It's important to be fast. The pit crew has to be just as fast as the driver. And all these tools are designed to do that. All right, let's go find out some more about racing cars. This is awesome stuff. So check this out. There are 2 different tires here. Now normally what you see on the racetrack are cars with these type of tires. Now this is what you call tread. If your mom and dad has a car, you'll see tread like this on their tires. This helps cars we drive in the streets grip the road, and also these little lines help to squish the water out in case it's wet. But when you're driving on a dry track, like a racetrack, you don't need that tread. That tread actually will, see where the holes are right here? That's less traction because only the rubber part grips the road, so there's less rubber part gripping the road, which gives it less traction. So what race cars do, because they're going so fast, they have no tread at all. It's just solid. And what happens is to get a good traction, they do what's called tacking. They weave back and forth a little bit, and that heats the rubber up. And as the rubber heats up, it starts to get sticky a little bit tacky, and it grips to the road. And now when they're driving, they have that tacky grip, and they can go, the faster they go, the harder the wheel gets, the more it grips. So you see cars on a racetrack, especially on a nice hot day like today, look at these cars right here. They have no tread, and all the cars are that way. If you see any kind of race car racing on a hot day, they all have wheels with no tread at all. But if it's raining, well now, the cars have to go a little bit slower, and they have to put these tires on that have tread, because what happens is when it's wet, these tires have no way, because of no tread, of making the water squish away from the tire, which means that you can very easily spin out. So with these cars, with these tires, the tread helps the tire, to push all the water away, so you can actually stay on the track without coming off. So you can't go as fast though, because you can't grip the road as quickly as you can with these tires. But these are what they'll put on whenever it's raining. So whenever you see cars racing in the rain, you'll see they have tires with treads on them. See them racing in the sunshine? Tires with no treads. It's a big difference. And they call these slicks, because they're nice and slick. So back here you can see so each car has a guy in front helping the driver out. Now the reason for that is when you get inside, it's very narrow. You can't really move around. So you gotta have somebody on the outside help you strap yourself in, help you get your helmet on, help you get situated, get your feet inside, and help you put that steering wheel back in, because they take the steering wheel out to get you in. And they gotta put it back in for you. So you can see these guys, once you're all strapped in, you have full control of the car, but until that time, you need help just to get into the car. So these things are very tight. And just like you have a pit crew to help you while you're racing, you need a pit crew to help you just get into the car. It's pretty cool. It's very interesting when that happens. You see these guys getting ready for their next race. And they're all set to go. They got their helmets on, they're all strapped in. They got their 4-point harnesses all strapped in. They're all set to go. We'll have to watch them, it's gonna be fun. That's it for part 1 of my day at Laguna Seca Raceway. But make sure to look for part 2.
Now once more with Xsploor, we've done learning galore. Explore, explore, explore.
Hey fellow explorers, I need subscribers to stay on the air. So please hit that subscribe button down below. Thank you. See you next time, fellow explorers. Take care.